Chil Kong is a Korean-American actor, director, and producer who is an active figure in Hollywood and the Asian American community. Kong had always been a talented child, and his official acting career took off after a chance audition with a friend that led to an unexpected offer. He has left deep impressions with roles on hit TV shows and movies like Lost, Too Big to Fail, West 32nd, and Crossing Over. Meanwhile, he has built up credentials as an artistic director of a theater company and as a director. Kong has worked to break stereotypes of race in American theater, directing versions of works like West Side Story and Gilbert and Sullivan's The Mikado with an all-Asian cast. He has now broadened his reach into television and film and is always looking for more challenges ahead. Join me, Susan Lee MacDonald, and hear his dynamic story of life in showbiz on this week's The Interview. Chil, thank you so much for being my guest on The Interview. It's so great to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
You are an incredible person. You do so much for the community in Los Angeles and kind of everywhere you've kind of put your little Midas touch. And you have been working as a director, actor, producer for over 20 plus years. There's such a wealth of information and knowledge that we can kind of learn from you today. So I'm really happy you're here.
I hope I have something to tell you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to introduce myself and you to our audience here real quick. Hello, everyone. My name is Susan Lee MacDonald, and welcome back to The Interview. Today's guest is Chil Kong. He is a director, actor, producer, and he has done so many productions stateside, it's mind-boggling. He's been on Lost, he's been on House MD, he has been on Law & Order, and he's been a film producer for the amazing Mikado Project. Let's meet Chil Kong today.
Hi.
Now, you've become very, Koreanized by being here for a little while this week, yes?
I'm in touch with my Han right now. So, yeah.
What brings you here to Korea this week?
I'm actually here as part of a NetCal Fellows leadership. And what we're doing is they're bringing Korean leaders, Korean American leaders to Korea to come back home to our roots. Really, it's to facilitate cross-country relations, foster some kind of business, and see if anything kind of springs up from this.
I see. And you've been a member for how long?
I'm a first-time fellow. I am the class of 6, and we just finished our fellowship development. And the highlight of it was this gala and summit that we had in Korea.
Fantastic. On October 12th, a special event was held at the Arirang Tower. Chil Kong arrives early in the morning. He is here as a panelist representing NetCal, the network of Korean American leaders, to share information about and his experiences in the U.S. broadcasting industry.
And we doing a summit that is trying to bring Koreans and Korean Americans together to do some networking and also trying to find ways to do bilateral collaboration. I'm really excited to be here and representing such an amazing group of people. And to be back in my homeland. It's been about 3 years since I've been here, so it's nice to be back.
My name is Susan Lee MacDonald, and welcome to the first ever 2012 NetCal and Arirang Producers and Writers in Hollywood workshop. I'm so excited and thrilled to have 4 very special people straight from Hollywood to tell you all about what producers and writers are up to in Hollywood. I would like to invite our panelists and welcome them with a round of applause. Hey. Hey, Eric. So we are thrilled to get a chance to talk to each one of you and hear your experiences.
When this opportunity for an internship came up, I was like, oh, sure, I'll do it. And it just opened my eyes to the possibility of working in film and television.
I used to take my bad tests and stick them under the bed. And one day, my mom found all of my bad tests. And I came home, and she had all of my manhwa in the fireplace. And she handed me some matches, and she said, "You burn them." Yeah, which I thought, it's very sad. I was
so sad.
very sad. But then I thought, like, later I can put that into a TV show.
Through one of my old internships, I got a job as a PR executive. So I worked about a block from the White House, and I did a lot of media relations and PR work. And that, too, just was not fulfilling to me. Like, every day I would put on a business suit and carry a briefcase. And I remember thinking, I can't wear pantyhose for the rest of my life. Like, this is not going to be the job for me.
And then went to an audition with a friend of mine, and I just was there to be supportive. I got the job, she didn't. And then I realized, oh, you know what, I need to do this.
When considering to be a producer in Hollywood, what kind of qualifications does someone need to have?
Networking is so important, and it's a lot of, and you may hear it all the time, Hollywood is about who you know. It's not always about what you know, it's about who you know.
Once I know what your title is, I know what your job is. And so even though there may be, instead of 40 people, you guys have like 15, what happens when somebody comes in the room and go, oh, I need this done, they have to ask 2 or 3 people to figure out how to get that done. In the US, you don't have to do that. You're going to go, oh, I need this. Oh, the grip does it. Okay, I'll go over get the grip. So I think what it does is it eases and expedites process. Because in Hollywood, it's all about speed.
Now, in terms of how competitive it is to get into Hollywood, not just as an actor or actress, but as a producer or writer, tell me about the competitive nature of what you do.
I have one friend that I worked with on Super Ninjas who he moved out to Hollywood when he was 22, right out of college. He worked as an assistant on comedy shows for 17 years.
Wow.
Just year after year, plugging away, waiting for his big break to happen. And you really do, if you're hardworking and you're talented and you start to build up the contacts over the years, I do believe that it will happen, but you have to really have a thick skin and be willing to stick with it.
One of the things about Hollywood that's tough is that nobody wants to be the first person to hire you.
Part of this is all about money, the competition. These TV shows, it costs like $3 million per episode to shoot. So who are you going to give the $3 million help as a director? Who are you going to let helm that? Who do you want to be in charge of that? Somebody you know? Or some new guy that the network is saying, no, you got to hire him.
You know, K-pop is quite huge hit nowadays.
The vivid accounts of life in the U.S. broadcasting industry was a dream come true for aspiring TV writers, actors, and directors alike.
Made the transition into a remake into.
They answered each question with sincerity and true words of advice.
The working hours can be tough, the lifestyle can be tough. So if you don't love it, then you're just not going to be as effective doing your job or getting into the business.
One of the things about writing is that you're kind of home alone, like only you can do that writing by yourself. So it can be very lonely and isolating. But if you know like 4 other people who are writing as well, you can exchange scripts, you can give each other ideas and make each other better writers.
You know, when I was in school, I never, you know, it was probably a little unrealistic, but maybe a little diluted, but I never thought that I wouldn't have a career in this business. And I think that you just have to maintain an upbeat attitude about it and just keep persevering until it happens for you and to not give up.
Build a community. Make sure you have a network of friends that you want to work with. They may not be in the same department, they may be somewhere else, but find people that you want to work with and hone that relationship. Share your scripts. Do all the things that they're saying. Build that community. Build a community that will work for each other and that you trust, and make sure that you guys are all thinking about, you know, chingu. It's like, make sure that your friends are really working towards and for each other.
Great, thank you. We'd like to thank all 4 of you.
Korean American leaders in the U.S. entertainment industry are laying the foundations for future generations of Korean American writers, actors, directors, and producers. We hope to see their work result in an expansion of Korean influence in global content.
I'd love to go over who you are and what you've done. You have had a very kind of eclectic but very impressive resume work-wise. You've worked as a director, you've worked as a musical actor, you've worked as a producer. You've worn so many different hats, and I'm curious, how is it possible to do all these different things?
I don't know if I do them all well. But it's more about, I think, necessity. I ran a theater company, and it's essentially a small business. And so I had to wear all kinds of hats. You know, I opened the doors, I swept the place, I met with big-time funders who gave all this money, and put up the shows. So you learn to be, I guess, in America we call them slashes. I think you have the same thing here. But yeah, you just have to. It isn't so much, what is that, the necessity is the mother of all invention.
Yes.
Well, I'm a mother of all invention. So
I'd like to first talk about your acting career. Many people have seen you in Lost, in House MD, Law and Order, SVU, and a myriad of other TV shows. Tell us about your involvement as a TV actor. How did you get started in that?
Oh, well, it's very funny. I'm that guy that people go, oh, that's Chil. So I do these kind of interesting character roles, and so I just started the film side as happenstance because I came down to Los Angeles, and because I was here, I got an agent relatively quickly. Because they knew my theater background. I'd done a lot of acting in theater. So I got sent out and booked relatively quickly, so I was very lucky. Yeah, I got on sets and worked with amazing people like Daniel Day Kim, with Harrison Ford, James Wood most recently in Too Big to Fail. I played the Korean president of the Korea Bank.
Here. There's great value in real estate assets. How about we walk through the portfolio? And I'll show you.
We have looked at them.
Well, then you must have looked at them in the wrong way.
Perhaps we should take a break.
Man, I'm so sorry.
We have negotiated in good faith. Now, all of a sudden, we are going backward?
We can work with you on the price.
It is not about the price. It is about the way you have conducted this. I'd like to thank you, all of you, but I don't think we have a structure that works.
Well, that's it. You're just gonna pack up and go back to Korea?
That said no. So it's very funny. Like they're using that bit now in a lot of the business schools to talk about negotiating with internationals. Yeah. So.
Wow, I did see that.
That was me, and I'm sure you thought the same thing. That was you? Yes, that was me.
Incredible. So a TV actor, you have honed in your acting though, not just from different workshops, but you've worked as a musical actor and director for a number of years, right? After Virginia Tech, you went to the Boston Conservatory, and from there you went straight to San Diego, right? The San Diego Repertory Theater. So tell us about the work that you did there.
San Diego is essentially a very large border town to Mexico, and I was the director in residence for San Diego Repertory Theater, and I ran this a project called Calafia.
Calafia?
Yes.
Okay.
Calafia is what California was named after, so Calafia.
Okay.
And she was an Amazon goddess and warrior. So it was a nice, strong power, right?
Nice.
So the whole idea of the project is there's no borders. And in many ways, the same way as the DMZ and the 38th parallel is a constant reminder of the division between the two countries. The Mexico-U.S. border in San Diego to Tijuana is a constant reminder of what happens down there.
I see.
And so what I did was a project that allowed us to work across the border, to bring American artists together with Mexican artists, and do things like we did a 3-language opera.
So you worked to basically help bridge the gap between the Americans and Mexicans through that work. And in Los Angeles, you took over the Lodestone Theater with Philip Chung.
Yeah,
is that
actually,
correct?
it was originally called the Society of Heritage Performers.
Okay.
That was founded after the riots. The Los Angeles riots.
Okay.
And so after the riots, the Los Angeles riots, a small Korean group got together and decided to share Korean culture with the rest of the community and doing it in a live performance style.
I see.
So the original founder of that, Sun Taek-oh, who is a prominent, he was probably the first Korean actor that was successful. He was in James Bond movies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he was my mentor. He followed my career and called me up and said, Chil, come on down to LA.
Wow.
Come take over my theater company. Well, I met with the other founders there, and we decided, the other founders of Lodestone was Book Hyun Chun, Philip Chung, and Tim Lunabus. So the four of us got together and said, we don't really want to do that. Let's start something else, something that we're interested in doing, something that speaks to us. And so that's when Lodestone was created.
And I know that you've done a lot of projects in the 10 years that you were there as artistic director, but what would you say would be one of the really highlight pieces that you've done?
Yeah, I mean, there are really many, but I think this one, Terminus Americana by Matt Pelfrey, is a prime example of not just the kind of work that we do, but how we make decisions on the work that we do.
Okay. What's it about?
Terminus Americana, it actually means literally the end of America.
Okay.
Right? It is, the play starts with a shooting, office shooting,
Whoa.
and it ends with an office shooting.
That's a statement.
So it's about the violence in America and how it is changing the way we perceive each other. And this was about 3 weeks before we opened, 9/11 happened. So the Twin Towers were, incredible moment in American history. And all of a sudden we're faced with this idea of, can we do this play?
Wow.
I mean, are we adding to something that we don't need to add to?
And people could potentially perceive you guys as trying to make money or kind of milk off of the pain and suffering of people having
of our nation.
Yeah.
And it was a really tough time for us because we had already spent all this money on this thing, and then at the end of the day we realized, what is it that we're afraid of? What is this thing why do we still need to do this? And it's actually really timely that happened. We are in a violent country now. The United States is not what it was after 9/11. And this play was probably more pertinent at that time than it ever was. So we thought, look, there's something about this piece that speaks to us. Let's do it. And it became one of our biggest critical successes that we've put up. And it reflects how we choose and how we decide on our material, as well as aesthetically what we do. And it's it's very edgy.
Your next project after that, that was critically acclaimed as well, is none other than Gilbert and Sullivan's Mikado Project. And the Mikado Project is something that for so many years has been done by an all Caucasian, all white cast. And you broke all barriers by doing it with an all Asian cast.
Right.
For those people who may not know about the Mikado Project, would you mind telling us about that?
Well, the Mikado Project is about a theater company that's doing the Mikado. And actually the Mikado itself is a musical operetta done by Gilbert and Sullivan, who are English, back in the late 1890s. And if you've seen any images of people like behind fans going hee, giggling, or shuffling their feet, those stereotypes actually came from that show.
Interesting.
So Western culture was inaugurated to Asian culture through that musical. It was that popular.
Wow.
And when it came to the United States, it changed the way white people thought about Asians. They actually quote unquote saw them for the first time on stage, even though it was all white people in whiteface, I mean yellowface. And that has been the tradition throughout. So there is yet to be an all Asian American cast of the Mikado performed in the United States.
Wow.
So this play was actually about this theater company who decided out of necessity to do this Mikado, and people getting pissed off about it, and other people loving the idea, and the wonderful arguments that happened dealing with the subject.
Okay.
And what's funny is actually how we chose this piece.
How did you choose that
Well,
piece?
I had the script in front of me, but I haven't quite read it, and we had to decide on the next play. And I was in New York at the time, and I literally walked out of the subway and ran into this giant poster, a 20 feet by 40 feet poster of the Gilbert and Sullivan, the Mikado. And on this poster with all these white faces in, Japanese outfits with yellow face paint on, looking really, really Oriental. And Oriental's not a good term in the United States.
No, it's definitely a derogatory term now.
Yeah. And so I was shocked. New York City, New York, one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the United States, was doing this musical with white people. So I was like, all right, somebody's telling me something. So we put that up, and it was an incredible success.
The Mikado was originally an operetta, is that right? And
Yes.
how did you kind of change it to maybe this modern time period? And I'd love to hear the kind of musical kind of shifts that you did.
Well, if you think about it, like because we had to modernize it, we had to make it specific to our time. Well, if I were to make it interesting for you, would you rather hear a wandering minstrel, like it's an opera? And we thought, and even the script tackles it, where it's like, I don't want to hear that crap. Yeah, I want to hear rap. I want to hear hip hop. So we actually took the music and converted it, and our musical director did a fantastic job of it turned into a rap.
Oh yeah?
One of the most iconic songs in this musical was turned into a wandering minstrel eye, a thing of present patches.
A wandering minstrel eye, a thing of shreds and patches, a ballad, songs and snatches, and dreamy lullaby. My catalog is long, through every passion ranging, and to your humor's changing, I tune my supple song. And to your humor's changing, I tune my supple song. I tune my supple song. Oh, sorrow, sorrow, I'll charm your willing ears with songs of lovers' fears.
And we had this hip hop dance.
Very cool.
Yeah, done by Ben Chung, who choreographed Jabberwockies.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, if you guys know, they're amazing choreographer. And so he choreographed that piece, and it changed the way people thought of Mikado.
Wow.
Yeah, so we took back one for ourselves. And
Score.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. It was such a success that people wanted to see a movie version of it. And so.
Tell me about the ABC Disney DGA program, the Directors Guild of America program.
Yeah. So I transitioned from theater into film and TV, and I heard about this program because we all know that it is about who you know in many ways to get you in the room.
You mean to get into Hollywood?
Into Hollywood. Yeah. You can still kind of win by your merits, but if you want to be in TV, you do need to know people, because they're spending millions of dollars on a show. And
they don't want to take a risk with someone they don't know.
Yeah, and even that, like on a risk on somebody who's like, all right, I don't know, I mean, does he speak English? Those kind of stereotypes are there.
Yeah.
So I thought, how do I then bypass this? What is the strategic way of advancing my career? And I heard about this program, so I applied for it and got in immediately.
Wow.
And they kept me for 3 years, which is really rare.
That's incredible. The idea that an Asian American is successful in Hollywood, most people in the States don't really think that there are many Asians that are performing. So for someone like yourself to have had this incredible career in theater, to get into this very prestigious, very competitive program, is really something that shows that you had the experience and expertise to get there. But I imagine that it wasn't easy to get in. Like, what did you have to do to get into that?
Wow, there was almost 5,000 applicants for 8 positions.
Wow.
That's what it was. And you had to give them a sample of your material, interview, and also have to have supportive letters. And I had lots of executives who wanted to see me succeed. what they really want is, they don't want somebody totally new. They want somebody who's actually can work now.
Yeah.
So I think what was great is that it wasn't a training program. It was a network program. We're going to take these directors who we know can work, and we're going to connect them to people so that they can feel more comfortable and get gigs as directors and stuff in the ABC.
Now, you've also taught students, and you taught in San Diego, and you've taught at Cal Poly. And tell us about what kind of things you've taught your students, and how would your students kind of describe you as a professor?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would like to know that one. I hope that that at the end of the day, what they hear from me is that I'm looking out for them. That my job isn't necessarily to teach what I know, but just that, purely just to give them information, but to give them the tools to be able to do what I did.
I see.
Sometimes when they come home from school, they need more than just a snack. They need comfort, right?
When you said right, you pulled totally back. Your walls are hard and heavy, girl. They're Jericho walls. You gotta let it go.
Who walls? What kind of?
Yeah, even that position you're in, that's okay. Now say the one.
Sometimes when they come home from school, they need more than just a snack. They need comfort, right?
And what I find is, they know better than I do, actually. Because it's their medium. They grew up with it. And they probably have a better understanding of the technology, and also, they watch it more than I do. So what I tell them is like, one of the exercises I do is I give them one video, and I ask them, what is it about this video that you liked? And then I give them a bad one, what is it about that one? But it's never about technology. Like there are terrible shorts where, people are cut wrong and the acting is bad. Usually what they see are production-wise good ones, yes, but one that effectively tells a story and one that does not.
Wow.
And so I try to hone their eye as opposed to giving them my eye, because they can't look for unless they actually kill me and take my eyes.
Right.
There's no way that they can actually see what I see. Right. So I think the most interesting thing to do is develop a student's eye and figure out what they really want to tell.
Let's talk about your story. Now, you are an immigrant to the U.S. You were born here in Korea, and with your family lived here until you were, 7, 8 years old?
Yes.
And then went with your parents stateside. Tell us about what it was like for you growing up here in Korea, and then that shift in going to the U.S.
Wow. It was a difficult one. I'm the oldest son.
Okay.
I'm the only son. And I was the first son of my generation on my mother's side.
Wow.
I was a god.
The golden child.
Yeah, because the grandpa came down and always took care, I have fond, I don't remember exact events, but I have fond memories of always feeling warm. And in Korea at the time, we're in the late 70s and early 80s. That was a tough time for Korea.
Yes.
And to have memories as a childhood of feeling warm, not many people have that. So think about this. From that warmth, I come to the United States where my parents had to work.
Wow.
All of a sudden, I'm not warm anymore.
Wow.
My parents are gone.
So your parents both came stateside, and why did they come to the States?
Well, it was a tough economy in Korea, and so my uncle was working as a machinist, and my father was also a machinist. He was also an engineer, but it didn't transfer over. He was a machinist in the States, but the machinist in the States paid 4 times more than trying to be an engineer in Korea.
Wow.
So it was all about the money. And I look back at that, even though I hated that choice that they made, think about the risk that they took. They didn't speak the language. They had maybe $700 in their pocket. So it was like $750. You know, when it converted from Korean won to the U.S., they had $750 in their pocket
for 3 children.
For 3 children and me, because I'm a pain. And I was a growing
Why do you say you're a pain?
Well, because I'm a growing kid, and I was this godchild. So when I didn't get the attention, it was weird. So it was a rude awakening to the realities of the world.
Wow.
And for the first time, I understood that we were poor. And I don't mean poor as in like, oh, we're in a nice house, but you know, I can only give you $5 for allowance. No, we were dirt poor. We lived in a trailer park.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like a southern trailer trash. Like, I don't know how to kind of say it. It's like, I'm a proud Cheonnam. Like, I'm a proud hick. That's where I grew up. Like, I'm a country bumpkin in the Korea and in the United States. So I saw my parents struggle to give me and my 2 sisters a future.
Wow.
And they did. Like, you know, eventually they got a house, the American dream, and were able to send their kids through college. And you know, I was the first to get an education
and the first to get a college degree.
Degree. And how lucky am I that they made that choice? So you know.
But when you're a young teenager and going through adolescence, there's always some kind of rebellion. I'm not saying that I'm justifying what you did with your parents, but it's actually unfortunately a common story that a lot of Asian Americans deal with, and their parents, while they had all the best intentions, don't understand American culture, and you're only getting American culture because you're going to school, and so there's this clash of cultures in the home.
Yeah, and I wish I was a little more self-aware of that, though. You know, because when you're a teenager, you're selfish. You know, you're thinking about me, and you forget that your parents. Like I was a fast growing. Like my metabolism was high, so my mom and my parents were making me like 2 or 3 steaks a day.
Oh wow!
You know how expensive that is? I'd look back and I go, I was eating my family out of house and home.
Wow.
While I was growing up. So, and yet I still didn't appreciate what my parents were doing. And you know, now I'm trying to work really hard to figure out how I can support my parents and maneuver within that part of the Korean culture. But you know, I look back and I go, wow, if I have one regret, it's the way I handled that. You know, I wish I was stronger, and I just wasn't.
What did you do to try to relieve your anger or angst as a teen? What type of rebellion did you do?
And here's where the singing came in. I became this singer, like, and it's weird, I was like a jazz singer and a country singer. And here's this little Asian Oriental boy doing concerts in the South.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I was an anomaly, and you know, I would get off the tour bus, and people would look at me funny. You know, it's like, who is this guy? Why is he? What is he doing here?
Now, when you say tour bus, what do you mean? Like you were?
I was actually touring and performing with the group.
Oh my goodness.
Where I was singing, you know, jazz and some country and clogging and all the dancing and the performing, the goofing off and aside, singing was my way to get in touch with my Han. I mean, I didn't know this at the time. I didn't think about it as like, oh, I'm getting in touch with my Han.
So when you say Han, just for those who don't know what Han is, it's actually a very difficult word to explain in English. In Korean, the word Han, in this particular instance, really expresses a very deep emotional anguish and turmoil that has to somehow be expressed. And a lot of times it's expressed through music or art. So that's the Han that you've been talking about.
It's the thing that once expressed releases all the anguish, but not just your anguish. It releases generations of anguish that has fallen before you and will follow after you. It's that much emotion is released, and people, you know, it's euphoric. What it does, and the only other way that I can explain it is just watch a K-pop moment where you cry but not cry from like your face or your eyes, where you cry from your soul. That's when you felt Han. And I didn't realize that I was tapping into that when I was younger, but when I was performing, I was actually more, you know, a lot of performers, when they talk about that, they talk about how they perform for an audience. I actually wasn't. I performed for me. Like, I was allowed to tap into something that I didn't know what it was, but it felt so right. And so I sang these songs and feeling stuff and allow myself to feel stuff that I couldn't in real life.
Wow. Since you're talking about singing and singing from that deep-seated Han, would you mind singing a song that maybe expresses a little of that? I know I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit.
Oh my God. Sure, yes.
Okay, and you said you did jazz and country, so one of those kinds of songs?
I'll do something more appropriate that's like that's a country song.
Okay.
It's called Love Me.
Okay.
Oh my God. Okay. If you get there before I do, don't give up on me. I'll meet you when my chores are through. I don't know how long I'll be. I'm not gonna let you down. Darling, wait and see. And between now and then, till I see you again, I'll be loving you. Love me.
Woo! Okay, you asked me to love you. I love you.
Thank you.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I know, and I just put you on the spot, so it was a little husky, but man, that's a sexy voice.
Oh, thank you.
You must have gotten quite a number of girls with your singing.
Oh my God, I'm gonna reveal a secret.
Okay.
That was kind of my trick. If I could get a girl in my arms and I could sing to them,
oh my goodness,
it was on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chill.
Oh my God, I am going to hell for those times. But I had a gift.
You have a gift.
My father was a singer. I didn't know this till later, until after all because there was a huge fight over my singing.
Oh, really?
My parents did not want me to be a performer, and I understand now. But back then, I was expressing stuff, and I was feeling good, and I knew what I was doing, and they were like, you know, you don't do that. But it was until later when I found out that my father used to be a singer, and that's why he was telling me, like, he knew the trappings of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he was speaking from experience.
Yeah, he was. And,
wow.
You know, there's lots of moments in my life, and there's a few things that, like, the way I told my parents was terrible.
So you were at Virginia Tech, right? And did you do some musical theater while you were there?
I did. It was actually in the summers.
Okay.
I worked at King's Dominion.
I probably saw you.
You might have seen me. So I was doing all the pop shows. It was the best summer job ever.
Wow.
Because think about it, I was getting paid let's say minimum wage is like $10, right? I know that's not what it was, but let's say it was $10. I was getting paid double that and only working like 3 hours a day.
For those of you who don't know what King's Dominion is, it's an amusement park, and then you've got these roller coaster and rides, and then they've got the shows, you know, different stylized shows, and students from all over would come to audition to be
And here's this Asian guy singing pop songs at an amusement park.
That's so funny.
So it was a great summer gig, and I was doing that, but that wasn't really the problem, because you know your parents like, oh, you can do that as a side thing, we don't care. But when I told them I was going to the Boston Conservatory, it broke my father's heart, I think. And
so after Virginia Tech, did you know that you wanted to pursue music?
Well, no. I mean, I did, and I was working at an ad agency as a copywriter. I was one of the few that actually got a job in at the time there was a recession. So I was working. I had a job. I was doing stuff, but a friend of mine went to a audition, and it was for the Grand Ole Opry, right?
Wow.
To go to Nashville, Tennessee. And so I went to be supportive, but then I auditioned too, just for fun. Well, I got an offer. She didn't.
Oh, that's awkward.
It is awkward, but also it taught me, you know, I can't not do this. I have to at least make an attempt. I'm young. I got to do this. So I spent that summer, I went back to Kings Dominion and quit my job.
Quit your job in PR, you mean?
In advertising.
Okay.
Quit my job and did the summer gig again. And in the meantime, I'd auditioned for these different schools because I realized I needed more training.
I see.
So I got in, luckily, to the Boston Conservatory and told my parents, and the stuff hit the fan.
What happened?
It was an incredible fight. We fought, and because I was just graduating. I just got that job. I was at the job like 8 months, and had this great apartment down in Richmond, and my parents actually helped me pay for that, and so it was a really tough time emotionally for my parents. And then my father had a stroke.
Oh my goodness! Right after you told him?
Yeah.
Wow.
So now I know all my friends who are doctors say, well, he's probably already vulnerable to that stroke anyway. It probably would have happened with or without me. But you can't help but think that was your fault.
Oh my goodness.
And I mean a knockdown, drag out, screaming match for about 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I was back home and I kind of thought about staying. And then my father had this moment of lucidity and looked at me and said, sing.
Wow.
We don't really talk that much. So for him to look at me to even say anything like that, I was thrown back.
Wow.
But for him to say sing, I was like, okay, he wants me to go. And even though my mom was gonna have a tough time, even though my dad was in a long road to recovery, he just started his recovery process.
Wow.
I knew that I had to leave, and it was a decision I regret often. It was a tough time for my family.
Who had to be the breadwinner after you?
My
your
mom
father?
and my 2 sisters.
Oh wow.
And heaven bless my sisters, because they put up with a lot of my crazy shenanigans when I was growing up. I mean, imagine having me as an older brother, right? Right? It would suck. And being as annoying as I am.
It seems like you would be lots of fun, or you'd be just...
Or a pain in the... Yes. So,
behind.
Yeah, right. So my poor sisters stepped up, took care of my mom and my dad, while I went on this great adventure to Conservatory. And I owe a lot of my career for the support of my sisters.
Wow.
They didn't poo-poo it. They didn't yell at me about it. They just kind of let me be. And I don't think I've thanked them enough for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you went to the Boston Conservatory, you went on a full scholarship, and that's not necessarily a common thing, right?
No, I was lucky I got it.
Wow.
I auditioned and applied, and they let me in, and I think I was the only Asian that got that scholarship before me. So they liked me enough to kind of keep me, and that's where I found directing. Like I went there as a performer, but because I had the scholarship, it gave me the freedom to take additional classes, and that once I hooked into directing, I was like, I love singing, but I love singing for myself. But directing, oh my God, like I can actually shape the entire production. I can tell a giant story, and it's not just about me.
Wow.
It's that moment of magic where you go, oh, this is what I was made to do.
Yes. And then you left there to go to San Diego, and then so we've gone kind of
full circle. The most important value in the world, you know what? I think it'd be 2 things, okay? I think it's empathy, so that you can actually sit and be able to look at the world through somebody else's eyes. Because I don't think people in the world do that enough. And the other part is actually kindness. We spend too many... Why spend your day being mean to someone when it's so much easier just to be nice? So I guess if there's any kind of core value that I would have, is empathy and probably kindness.
One of the last things I'd like to talk to you about is the film fund that you're involved with. Tell me about the genesis for that idea, and what is a film fund in which you're working in?
Well, at first it started out with an idea of creating a studio.
Okay.
And we just wanted to, I just wanted to be able to tell my stories. Like I have either have a bunch of scripts that I've written, or I have access to a bunch of scripts that other people wrote, and I really love these, and I don't understand why they weren't being shot. I also realized that there's Hollywood was changing, that we're diverging from these giant mega blockbuster features or these micro budgets that are
like the Blair Witch Project or something.
Yeah, Blair Witch is a successful example of that. But we're talking about young people who, out of gumption, you know, like, we're just gonna do it, and they shoot it. And what happens is it's a weird statistic. Only 1 out of 150 films that are finished in micro budgets actually make money.
Oh, wow.
But what
149 out of 150 then lose money.
Right, and but what they don't tell you is that more than 3,000 to 4,000 films start shooting, never finish.
Oh, wow.
So think about that. Like, that's the rate of attrition. Just to get it done is impossible in micro budgets. So you know, it's hard to get it done in big budgets too, but they just keep throwing money at it and get finished. So what's happened was there's nothing in between. A lot of the films that even are in between are relegated to like Lifetime Channel, and they're created for TV. So what I realized was like, isn't there a more efficient way to do this? Can we take trained or on the verge younger producers and directors who haven't quite made it yet, but they have done all the work? Can't we take those people and give them a place to succeed? And so, you know, I came up with a creative model that puts TV, film, and theater together, and I tested it a couple times, and it really was effective. We managed to produce in this team, get stuff sold.
Nice.
So. When I talked about this idea with a few people, it caught on really quickly, and we got our initial funding.
Wonderful. And how much funding do you have now with this?
We have enough.
You have enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
The
I mean, are we
fund
talking
itself
like 100,000? Are we talking about
no, more than that. But but the fund itself is we're in the double-digit range, but.
Like in the millions?
Yes.
Okay.
The idea is, and the great thing about this is you're not, the fund itself, it became a fund because too many people were buying or funding one movie. That one movie has 1 in 150 chance to succeed, right? Well, why don't you trim out the numbers, and if you're more efficient and more effective, then you want to be in the VC world.
Yes.
In the VC world, 1 in every 20 or 1 in every 10, somewhere in there, one of those succeed, but they make a crap load of money for those people when the one succeeds. Well, why can't we take that model, merge it with a TV with filmmaking model, and use some smart people and use the same numbers?
Yes.
So you're putting money into a fund, and what happens is, instead of putting your money into one movie, you're putting it now into a pool of movies. So all it takes is one of them succeed. Now you have a successful movie.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we already have, we have rights to a bunch of scripts, and we've already started shooting on one, and we're on our way.
Now, which is the one that you're starting on? Can you say?
I can't.
No. Okay.
But we have, luckily we have actually lots of names on it, and when we're ready to promote, I will tell you, and
we'll do.
I'll bring the whole
That's
crew
a promise.
out, and
Awesome.
we'll talk about it. Okay.
Chil, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. I mean, the information, the wisdom, and just knowing that you're just such a fun guy to talk to. I mean, seriously, I think that if I've had so much fun with you here, I can imagine that our audience is really going to enjoy just hearing what you have to say with your experience, and they're going to be like, I like Chil Kong.
Well, I had a great time.
Fantastic.
A lot of times these interviews can be entertaining in a different way. But you're so fantastic. I love watching you. It is actually one of my favorite shows. So thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you so much, Chil. It's been a pleasure, and we hope for all the success to come your way. Thank you.
Thank you.
No.